the room warm. Yeah. You got the people signed up? So you can get reimbursed for your cookies? Rosie's always on me about that. Did you get the list? Did you get the list?
I love the way Anna says
Cookies?
cookies. Como mi mamá.
I love cookies. Cookies are for me. Have you seen that recording? Have you heard it?
Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster, there's a song. Cookie. Cookies start with C. Well, English is my second language, so I can't help it.
Me too.
Yeah. That's what you get.
No tampoco, pero
¿Poquito?
poquito.
¿Sí? Entonces podemos hacer la presentación en español.
Bueno,
¿Sí? ¿Posiblemente?
sí.
¿Matt? ¿No habla español? ¿Un poquito?
Va a traducir.
Un poquito. Un poquito.
I actually taught Spanish the first year I taught school.
¿Sí? Ah,
¿Puede traducir?
traducir, no.
Okay, vamos a empezar.
Vamos a empezar. Okay, so, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's really wonderful to see old and new faces. My name is Ana Puig. I'm director in the Office of Educational Research, and I have the pleasure to introduce you to Bess DeFarber, who is the grants management person in the libraries at the University of Florida, and she manages all the programs and works with folks who are interested in grant seeking, and I was very lucky to find her. She's going to be helping me today, and we're going to do this together. I understand that students at the College of Education wanted to know where to go for funding for international research and travel, and so we've done a little bit of homework, and we are hoping that there are several objectives we might achieve today, okay? The first one being providing a context for grants writing, grant seeking, because it's a whole world all its own. We're gonna help you understand grantsmanship or grantswomanship, if you want to be inclusive. In terms of processes and language, there's a language called grantees that you will learn if you are a seeker of grants as part of your career development. We're going to hopefully inspire confidence and a desire to participate in this process, which can be really challenging, but also very rewarding. And also gain knowledge of where to go, because if you don't know where to find the stuff that will fund what you're interested in, you're not going to be able to navigate this process. So that's a very important part of the grant seeking and grantsmanship process. So we want to know who you are. We want to know where you come from. We want to know a little bit about your experience. And we want to know maybe some general questions that you have about grant applications, processes, or awards. We were going to do this with index cards, but provided that we have a small audience, we can do this actually in vivo, and not to be confused with the data analysis software. But if you can tell us who you are by name and what discipline of study you're in, and also why you're sitting here today, and if you've ever done anything related to grants before at all, okay? And what kind of money you think you want to go after? Anybody? Popcorn style.
My name's Ben Campbell. I work in distance learning in the college.
Okay, you're the Ben that just came back from a conference.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Okay, it's good to put a face to the name.
Yeah.
All right.
I work in distance learning. I'm pretty passionate about how people use technology to learn things.
Okay.
And I feel like there's a lot of opportunities for expanding on what's available now.
Absolutely.
And would love to be able to sequester money
Yeah.
to expedite that process.
Okay, and are you enrolled in a program of study here, or are
I
you?
was a doc student in educational technology, and
Okay.
I got busy with an LLC that I have. It would also be great for a grant.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're kind of branching out into entrepreneurial activities of your own.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Ben. Anybody else? Yes.
My name is Kristen Murphy.
Kristen.
I am a doctoral student in special education, I work on 2 IES grants at the College of
Awesome.
Ed, and last year I helped write a CRIF grant.
Awesome. Very
And
cool.
I'm hoping to learn about grant opportunities to pursue my own international research this summer, and beyond.
Okay, okay. You know, if you don't know, IES is la creme de la creme of grants
Yes.
in education, Institutes for Education Sciences. Yeah, it's really difficult to crack into that egg. But once you make it in, it's good. All right, very excellent. Thank you, Kristen.
I'll go. My name is Catherine Comerford. I'm a master's student in social foundations. It's my second semester here. And I have a political science, international relations background in addition to my education background.
Okay.
So when I saw the title of this meeting, I thought, hey, this seems like something that I'd like to know more about. So
Yeah,
I'm really here just to kind of start gathering information and see
Excellent.
what's out there. And
excellent, very
I'm
good.
looking for ways to link my 2 backgrounds, education and international relations, together.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Very synergistic, you know, the 2 subjects, so that's good. Excellent. Say your name again, please.
Catherine.
Catherine, Kristen and Catherine and Ben. Okay.
All right.
Matt.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm in my last semester of the Student Personnel and Higher Ed program here at
Oh,
the College of Ed, so
cool.
I'll be graduating in April.
Okay.
I do plan to go on and get my doctorate, so that is something that I plan on in the future. And the international stuff, I've been working with the international colloquium and whatnot, so this has just kind of become an interest of mine. So,
Okay. Okay. Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Yeah.
And I'm Theresa Burnett, and I'm the
Yes.
Assistant Dean for Student Affairs in the College of Education, and I'm on the International Colloquium Group.
Uh-huh.
And I'm always interested because I have been engaged in sponsoring study abroad. So
Aha.
I'm always interested in finding more money
Okay.
for study abroad adventures.
Okay.
So that's half of why I'm here, and the other half is just to learn more about
Okay.
grant getting.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
I'm Elaine Colon. I'm the Director of Assessment and Accreditation at the college. And I would echo what Teresa just said, is kind of learning more about the area and then maybe making some connections to my work and some opportunities that are available.
Very good. All right. Welcome. And I believe we have one more guest. We're talking about ourselves a little bit, you know, what brings us here, what discipline we come from, why this is a topic of interest, and what kind of experience you had with this stuff.
Let's see. A discipline is counselor education.
Uh-huh.
That would remember here.
Yeah.
And I'm interested because I lead a lot of outreach projects internationally and do a lot of work internationally around disaster, crisis counseling,
Okay.
and had a couple of grants, did some grant management.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. Your name's Teresa West Olatunji?
It is.
Excellent. All right, welcome everyone. Yes. So the first thing we need to kind of address is why bother with this proposal stuff? You know, why are they important? What is it about them that we want to tend to? And what writing a proposal can do for you is give you money to do the things that you really want to do, like you've already referenced, you know. You want to do research, you want to pay for your dissertation, maybe some time to write it up, maybe you want to pay your participants for being a part of the process, and you need some money to reward them for that. Maybe you want to go abroad to collect your data because you're interested in, you know, students in Africa or South America. And you really want money to support that process of conducting the research, analyzing your data, writing up the results, disseminating them. So there's money out there for all of those things, and you need to know where the money is to be able to pursue it. It empowers you to do your own research. Some of you mentioned you work for someone else, and that's excellent to have that kind of foundation and experience. But eventually, my guess is you want to branch off into your own area of expertise and interest. So this will allow you to do that. If you get your own money, your own grants. I don't mean to give you my back, Bess. I'm trying to stay in between this range here. It also helps you to gain reputation and recognition as a faculty member if that's what you choose to do. If you're independent and you want to develop your own business, it might bring people to the table that are willing to invest in your idea, so it's another way to make connections. The work that you do as a researcher, of course, will need to be disseminated, and it will get you publications, which is really the holy grail of being a faculty member and on a tenure track. You need to get published, and so that's part of the reward. Also going in presentations nationally, regionally, internationally, and talking about the work that you did and what you found out, and you contribute to the foundational knowledge of your specific area of expertise. It also eventually will give you autonomy and release time as a faculty member. A lot of faculty will buy out themselves out of teaching in order to be able to pursue research activities. And so that's another way of getting someone else to teach so you can go out on the ground and do the data collection. It also proves certain things about you. It says that you have good ideas, because funders know a good idea when they see one, and they will give you money. If you think about it, these people have money, they have to use it. Why should they give it to you? What is it that you have that's so special that I should give you $100,000 to go with it? Well, because it's a good idea, because no one else thought it up, because it's never been done before. So that's a good reason to help support your work, because you can communicate clearly, and later on we're going to give you an opportunity to dissect a funded Fulbright, a little piece of a funded Fulbright, so that you can find whether this person and how he or she communicated these ideas in such a brilliant way that Fulbright said, yes, we're going to give you this money to go do what you want, because you said it so well when you wrote it up. You're going to be able to support your work, and this is very important. Size doesn't matter. Why doesn't size matter? Because any money is more money than you had before. Okay? So you're ahead already. All right? And now I'm going to turn it over to Bess, who's going to talk a little bit about how practice equals results.
So basically, Anna, don't go away with the microphone. No, it's okay. Basically, Anna and I, when we put together this presentation, we wanted to make sure that there was a common denominator, common context within the room. So there might be basic information here that you're hearing that you already know. But we wanted to make sure that if there were people here who had no experience, that they would be able to feel confident when they left the room, that they could have a meaningful conversation on the topic of grantsmanship. So this slide gives you an illustration of what this discipline is really about. It's an art form, it's a practice, and it's repetitive. So if you're always in the planning mode or always in the research mode, let's say that you spend an hour a week, an hour a month, and you say, this is my research time to look for new grant opportunities. You need at least that much time to be paying attention to what's available, right? And then you say, okay, what are the ideas that I have in my basket, in my brain, that I want to be searching for? So you're always planning. But then when you have a specific opportunity, you're planning for that opportunity. And then you move to organizing your information, organizing your people, organizing your letters of support, organizing all of that. So you can see that this is a continuous circle. You can be doing all of these things at the same time and then always be in that cycle of improvement. Let's go to the next slide. So the number one reason why people do not write proposals is fear. Fear of rejection. In our society, we have this. I think it's interesting. I think more of the immigrant folks that come to our country have less fear because they've already dealt with the fears in their own country. They come here and they don't really perceive that kind of sense of, oh, well, I won't be able to do that. So if you look at this as a fear and you say, you know, why should I do this? Because so few proposals actually get funded. But we did an analysis, and this comes from Doug Levy, and he says that the average number of times that it takes to get funded in an NSF environment, National Science Foundation, is 2.7 times. I know for a fact right now at the Florida, please come in, at the Florida, the Natural History Museum of Florida, that we're doing a grant writing presentation. You can come in.
Oh, I was just, we messed up the terrace room and didn't set it up for you guys, and we just wanted to apologize. We just finished our, we didn't do our job setting it up.
Oh, we're good. We're
Don't
taping
worry.
now, so
We're
we're already
fine.
into the
We're fine.
presentation.
We're fine.
No problem. So at the Florida Museum of Natural History, there's a group of people who are writing a proposal, and they already know that they're not going to get funded. They're only writing it for the purpose to get reviewer comments, so that they can resubmit and do an excellent job. But you can imagine the amount of work that is going into a proposal that is already known that is not going to get funded. Let's go to the next slide. So this is this is the second reason why people don't do this work, is because it's complicated and overwhelming. And of course, if you don't know how to approach the guidelines, what to look for, how to structure your work, then you really shouldn't be doing this, because you're inventing and reinventing the wheel. And there are wheels and ways of doing this, and we're going to talk to you about how to do it in a more effective way. Let's go to the next one. So what is essentially a grant proposal? A grant proposal is a request that says, will you marry me for a short period of time? Right? It's called the grant period. During the grant period, we are essentially married. We have a contract that we're going to provide you with these products, these outcomes, and we're going to stick to it. And there might be people that leave, you know, there might be some family emergencies, et cetera, but we're in this together, and it's an investment that this funder makes in the quality of the relationship with you. So you have to look at it as a marriage. So let's look at the next one. The definition of, so what is a fellowship? Or the word fellowship and grant are interchangeable, except fellowships are generally given to individuals and not to a university. But there are exceptions to that, and that's something else that Anna and I wanted to emphasize today. The world of grantsmanship is gray. It's not black or white. And sometimes a fellowship will not require that it goes through the university for approval, and sometimes it does. So you can never say, in all cases, you do it this way. You have to go case by case and look at the situation and say, okay, I'm going to change the way I do things because this is the requirement. So the proposal it engages the reader in a story, right? About an opportunity to fill a gap, to eliminate a need, to solve a problem, or to research some new way of doing X. Correct? It is essentially a business plan. You're going to, in a period of time, you're going to spend X amount of dollars, and you're going to have X results. It's going to also convey an image of who you are. What kind of person are you? What's your background? What have you done previously? Who have you worked with previously? That's your friends and your partners. Because if you're a solo artist, they're not interested in funding solo geniuses. You know, if you're an Einstein and you don't need anyone else to work with you, then I would say you need to figure out some way, other way to get funding. And the last one is that it gives an assessment of whether you're capable of doing this work or not. And it's very easy to see that. The first thing that the reviewer sees is this person capable of what they're telling us that they want to do? Okay, your turn.
Okay, so here we go. Grant writing is an art and science, like she mentioned, of developing relationships. And I cannot emphasize that enough. It's about making yourself to go out there and develop relationships with people who have the money that can actually consider giving it to you to do the work that they need to have done. So usually these people have an agenda, right? You have an idea, you have an image, and you want to take that and make it into a fundable project, okay? And sometimes it's not so simple to do, just to take your idea and intact as it is, serve it up to a potential funder. Sometimes it requires that you negotiate with them. And it is possible that you submit a proposal and they really, really like it, but there's a piece of it that they're not so hot about. And they might go back to you and say, you know, we like this, we think this part of it is great, we don't think this part of it is so great, can you take that out and let's give you a little bit less money? That's entirely possible. And you need to be able to say, okay, well, let's sit down and negotiate. Can I actually do that? Can I meet you halfway and give you most of what you want, and maybe you will give me this little piece that I really want, and then we can work together to come up with an idea, to come up with the final product that makes us both satisfied. It's a negotiation, right? So you're using words and financial information, money information, to hook the reviewer. The reviewer is a person who's going to be looking at your proposal, and they're usually tired people that are holed up in a room without windows for an entire weekend, okay, looking at piles and piles and piles of proposals. And by the time they get to yours, their eyes are bugging out. And you know, it's going to be really hard to grab that person's attention. You need to be able to express and underscore and convince that person of the importance, legitimacy, and creativity of your project. I know you're reading 50 other projects, but my project is so important and so special and so timely that I think you should really seriously consider giving me the money, right? You're asking for a specific amount of money to do a specific kind of work, okay, and you're going to use it sometime in the future. There's a timeline involved, okay? So you were mentioning you needed money for the summer. I got a little worried, frankly, because sometimes this process can take up to a year of thinking about the idea, finding the potential funding, submitting the proposal, and having them tell you, here's the money. And then sometimes the project start is not until January, but you've already been thinking about this for a whole year. I know research teams that have been meeting over a year before they actually submit a final, complete, polished proposal that is going to get rejected, but they're going to get great feedback. And they're going to use that feedback. You know, it's like when you're doing a manuscript, right? You know, that first letter of rejection is just heartbreaking. But then they give you really good feedback about how to make it better. And if you don't pay attention to that and just say, I'm just going to send it somewhere else, you know, these people don't know what they're talking about. Well, there's a very good chance you're going to get another rejection with the same feedback or very similar feedback. So really, you have to learn how to like toughen up a little bit when it comes to this process. So then the other thing you need to worry about is managing. Once you get the money, you, like she said, you are in a partnership, you're in a marriage, and you're going to be held accountable for every dime. You're going to be held accountable for what you're proposing to do, for what you told them you were researching. The oversight and administration involves not only conducting the research in the manner in which you indicated you were going to conduct it, but also matching to a specific grant maker. And that has to do with just saying, this is a goodness of fit. We are, what I'm doing, what you want to see done matches. We are working together. We're going to make this happen, right? Now, you need to learn about the people that you are asking money from, right? You wouldn't marry somebody on the second date now. You could, but there's a very high likelihood that you're going to end up divorcing, right? Because you don't have enough information. So you need to get to learn, what do these people fund? Who have they given money to before? What kinds of projects have they given money to in the past? Not only where are these people situated, but what kind of project, for what kind of issue, for how much. And usually if you do your homework, the website of these places will tell you exactly who these people were, where they went, what research they did, what area of interest they were exploring? You know, it's very simple. You can spend 2 or 3 hours in a website, say, you know, if you go to the Spencer Foundation and you're looking for dissertation money, you could spend, you know, 3 hours looking at Spencer. What do they fund? What are the priorities of the foundation? They give you the names, the universities, and the abstracts of the people that they have funded before. And that sort of seems similar to what you're wanting to do. There's a good chance that you can break in, and you just need to learn that. What are the priorities of the organization? Okay? You create the best mental movie possible. Imagination, right? You create the best image possible. You learn from declinations, the times that they have said, no, you can't have the money. You have a good idea, but you know, the way you presented this doesn't make any sense. This seems to come last. It should be first. You're talking about dealing with this kind of person, these people. You should really be working with these people. What we know from the literature is that this kind of intervention seems to backfire and it doesn't work. And you need to do your homework, and you need to lay the groundwork and have a logical rationale for what you're doing, because these people can read right through. If they think you've skimmed the stuff and not really thought it carefully through, they're going to know, okay? And, you know, this helps you to have a positive relationship from beginning to end. That doesn't always happen. I've heard horror stories about relationships that ended badly, you know, because, you know, what you delivered was not what they wanted. And then they say, well, we don't like what you've done. And just because they said we're going to give you, you know, say $3 million over a 3-year period, it doesn't mean you're going to get the full $3 million up front. Most people who are dealing in millions of dollars will say, I'll give you the first $1 million the first year, and then you're going to give me a report. And if I like what you've done the first year, and it seems like you're on track, and you're following what you said you were going to do, then we're going to issue the second $1 million, okay? And so on and so forth. Now, there are genius grants, right? I think, is it MacArthur? That says, we will give you, you know, $5 million and you could do whatever you want with it. If you ever get one, I'll be honored to be in your presence, you know, because this is very rare that you will see a person get one of those. And you can do whatever you want with the money. You could buy a yacht and sail around the world. They don't care. They figure you deserve it. You're so smart.
It's $500,000.
500,000? Thank you. Okay. See, she knows that. She knows more about that than I do.
Smaller yacht.
Yeah. Smaller yacht. Go figure. Okay. Well, and Bess is going to take over now and
Just
talk a little bit about
and then-
this.
Yes, so we want you to, it's important to always know the source of the money, the kind of money that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Are you dealing with public money? That's government money. Any kind of government money. Sometimes you think it's not government money, but it is. For instance, University of Maryland has a lot of contracts. Or we get money from the state library system, but that money is federal, it's flowing through. There's also an organization that distributes funding for a foundation. And if you don't ask, where is this money coming from, then you assume that it's government money, but it's really not, it's private foundation money. And why is that important to know? Because each type of money is treated differently in terms of management. And most people ignore this and get into lots of trouble. On the front end when they're applying, and on the back end when they've got the money and they don't realize that it was federal money or it was state money, because it was kind of obscure. So we're going to go through the individual aspects of this, but Anna's going to describe for you what you need to know about the sponsor.
Okay. The sponsor will tell you, usually you begin with the website exploration. They will tell you what you need to know, what organizations or programs have been funded. Some grantors give money to non-for-profits. And some grantors will give money to programs within different agencies, and some will give money to individuals who are doing particular research. So you need to know what it is that they fund. And usually they will tell you very clearly, we fund this, we don't fund this, and you need to know what that is. Usually, they're very helpful if you ask them, can you tell me if you would fund this kind of project? And you could write a small abstract or a 2-page prospectus, and they will tell you. What is the range of funding? They will tell you up front in the request for proposals, we will fund 15 awards that will range between $250,000 to $1 million, and that's it. You need to know what the focus of the organizations or the sponsors funder is now. What is it that they are trying to put money on at this moment? And that can vary from year to year. Just because you used to fund something in the past, in a particular area, say, research regarding health in Africa, or dissemination of, how to avoid, what do you call it? Sexually transmitted diseases in particular communities, that doesn't mean that they will always fund that. So you need to find out what the areas are within that particular year of funding that they are focusing on. How can you get a copy of what has been funded in the past? I skipped the one before that. What language does the funder use to describe funding practices and interests? This is an interesting line. Usually, when you write your proposal, it's wise to use the language of the sponsor so that you can kind of underscore that you have similar lines or areas of interest and focus. So it's advisable that you somewhere in your proposal you embed that. So they know, number one, that you've read their stuff and you know what it is that they emphasize, and you are prepared to deliver that particular thing that you're proposing to them. Also, who can you talk to? Usually what I recommend for folks here, whether you're faculty or a doc student, is find the program officer for that particular competition. Their job is to help you figure out if your idea is a good fit to what they're trying to fund. And they're particularly accessible. For the majority of people that I have emailed or called, respond to me within 24 hours. There are others that are not going to be as responsive, mind you. It happens. Some people are really good at what they do, and other people are not. So I've been lucky so far in terms of getting responsiveness. And all I need to do is say I have someone here who's interested in doing this kind of work, with this population in this setting, and these are the variables of focus. Is this something this particular competition would be good for? And I've actually had them say, not for this one. But if you call so-and-so at this particular branch of our agency, they will tell you they have a competition that is a good fit. They're that helpful. And so goodness of fit is really critical when it comes to matching the grants together. Are you ready to ask your questions? This is very important. What I recommend people do usually before you make that phone call is you send an email. And you say, can I set up an appointment to talk to you? At your earliest convenience, okay? And between the time you send that email and you set your appointment, you sit down and you write a list of all of the questions that you have based on the careful reading of the request for proposals or RFP or request for application or RFA. Because if you're not ready, and they will tell you that it's kind of embarrassing a little bit. They'll say, well, if you read page 25 on the third paragraph, you would see that, we really don't do that. And so you're wasting their time when you don't do your homework. And that's not a good way to start a relationship, all right? So you want to make sure that you do a lot of homework up front, that you are an informed consumer, because that's what you really are. And you need to be able to get ready. Write down all your questions. Maybe you will have follow-up questions in a moment. If there's more than one PI, more than one person in the room, have the, put the person on speaker, tell them that they're on speaker, let them know, introduce everybody in the room. Have your conference call and be courteous, and they're usually very, very helpful. What is the history of this funder with the community? I have actually had people find the perfect grant for the perfect project that they had in mind, but they only do funding for people in Minnesota. And it's a little bitty thing that makes a huge difference. So you need to be careful and make sure that these people are interested in funding the areas, geographic areas where you are or where you are conducting your work. Because, if you're not from Minnesota and they want to fund Minnesotans, then you're out of luck. All right? And how do they like to be treated? If you know people within the university who have been funded by these people, find out about it. Put the word out. Our office does some of that. The office, part of what we do, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, is we try to figure out who has been funded before by this particular group, and then we try to connect people and put them together and say, can you share your history with this particular group, with this PI? So that you can learn about how do they do business, what do they prefer that you do and how to do it, so that you know the culture and that you're approaching them in the appropriate manner. And yes.
Can you go back to who makes the decisions? In your experience, how testy can you get in terms of how they make their decisions? And some of the foundations will say, well, we have consultants that come in and review proposals.
Yes.
Or we send it to X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
Can you really press them on that issue? I mean, I'm
going to talk about that in the
later on?
next, yeah, coming up.
You're going to talk about that? Okay. I'll just make one comment about it from my experience. When you're dealing with foundations, as a whole other ball of wax. It's completely different from dealing with public or federal funding. So foundations emphasize relationships much more. And you can go ahead and let's talk about this.
Okay,
we'll begin with the public, but hang around because we're going to talk about private.
Yeah, we need to go a little bit faster on the slide.
Okay.
So I'm going to do the public sponsors are the government sponsors. Basically, and we talked about the fact that these are gray, right? The area of grantsmanship is gray. So I'm making generalizations when I tell you that they're generally larger awards, but there are some that are smaller, okay? They're reliable more for long-term funding. You can go back and go back and go back and go back over and over again. The information about what's funded and what isn't funded is more transparent. You can actually get proposal copies. You can get more information. You can find out everyone who was funded in that grant period, etc. They generally have established processes that are not negotiable. So moving things around or not making the deadline for whatever reason is not negotiable. If you're supposed to finish on September 30th, I've had this happen to me. It means spend all the money by September 30th. There's no cost extension. And it means that you can't have an outstanding purchase order. You have to have spent all the money by September 30th. Now, in other situations with government funding, you can have extensions, except for it depends on that individual funder. In this case, there's always, it's usually black or white when it comes to government funding. Larger staffs, so you have an ability to speak one-on-one more generally with a government funder than you do in other relationships with foundations or with corporations. Sometimes there's open trainings where IMLS or other funders, federal funders will come and do a training in your community on how to get that, or at a conference, how to get funding from them. They are accountable to public officials, which means that in our case, it means Congress. that they're accountable to, and to the president if it's federal funding, or to their state legislators. The process for getting federal funding or state funding is much more time-consuming than usually in other categories of funding. It involves much more reporting and much more evaluation than the other types of dollars that we talked about. And they will generally take fewer risks, and there's more restrictions on how you can use the funding. So essentially, that's what the animal of public funding looks like in a generalization. Let's go to the next slide. Private sponsors are foundation sponsors. And the awards are generally smaller, but of course, there's the larger foundations that make huge awards. So in some cases, they're not. They mostly fund for one-year projects and not recurring. You cannot usually go to a foundation repeatedly for the same program. They move on. They are interested in broader investments. The information is not available to the public unless you go to the 990. So each foundation has to submit a tax report called a 990, IRS 990. And you find this form through using GuideStar, or you can use the Foundation Center Library online to get one of these forms, and it will give you the names of the board of directors, their addresses, and the list of funds that were given out and to what recipients. But you cannot generally get a copy of a proposal from a foundation. There's fewer staff, much fewer staff, because the goal is not to spend money on staff and to give the funds to the project. They have policies that are usually directed to a local community. It's a simpler process. You can negotiate with them a lot easier than you can with a government funder. There's less leniency when it comes to reporting and evaluation. They're more likely to fund new ideas and be more flexible in terms of your expenses. To answer your question, you are very careful in your relationships with foundations. In fact, I was called as a consultant one time to talk to a group of applicants who were actually attacking a foundation for making the decisions that they had made on healthcare in a specific community in Palm Beach County. And I called the applicant and I said, you are not entitled to these funds. You are not entitled to knowing why you didn't get funded, because these are private dollars. There's no requirement for you to get grant reviews from the grant reviewers, because these are private funds and they're not accountable to you. They're accountable to those who invested the money into the foundation and the board of directors of that foundation. So you have to understand the way foundations work in a very secretive, quiet way to distribute their funds, and the way they make decisions is really none of your business. And we're not, we're not used to this kind of relationship, because we work in a government environment. We work in the Sunshine State where everything is open and freely available. But you should not ask for something that you know is either insulting or going beyond the line for which you should be asking. And you have to walk a fine line. You can ask, is it possible to get reviewer comments? Is it possible? The answer, I will tell you, 99% of the time will be no when it comes to foundations. If someone was in the room, the program officer has time and was there and was taking notes, they might give you a few bits of acknowledgement or information, but they are not accountable to you at all. They are totally accountable to their board. I worked a lot in the private sector as a consultant, and I worked with many foundations. And you have to really walk on eggshells when you're talking to them. Otherwise, they'll shut you down. They'll never talk to you again.
So don't ask, don't tell.
Well, you just want to be careful. Yeah.
The reason I pose the question is because I've had some experiences with foundations, pretty large ones, and I knew the program officer pretty well, and you know, you get pretty friendly and you talk about grandchildren and all
Of
that kind of
course.
stuff, and then when you say, well, you know, who's reviewing the proposals, they sometimes get real testy about that.
It's not an appropriate question. You can ask them, is it possible to share that? And you know, I mean, it's all in the way that you use your language. We need to keep going because we
Yeah.
won't be finished.
Yeah.
And then we have corporate sponsors.
Yeah.
Corporate sponsors, in general, they're looking for something for themselves, okay? So if they're going to give you money to do X, then they want to see their name plastered all over Kingdom Come regarding X, right? And it's not an altruistic relationship that they have with you. It's a quid pro quo. You do this, I'll give you this. You do this, I'll give you more of this. So you just want to be careful with corporations. Also, something else that you might want to know is there's different buckets of money within a corporation. So you might have an event that you want sponsored, and they'll sponsor events, but with different money and a different person that's in charge of that. So it's not all managed in one area. For instance, Chipotle, I don't know if any of you know, but you can get free food for your events through Chipotle. If you go online, you pull up their website, you have an event, you request how many people you want served and what kind of food you want, and you fill out the form, and then you go pick up the food.
They're a smart business.
So just wanted you to
Right
know
there.
that little thing. And so
Chipotle
we'll
grill.
move on to
Yes.
grants beginning with.
Okay, so this is my little dog and pony show that I do for the grad students, and the idea is that, you know, of course, we've referred to this before. You have to have a vision, an idea, and a need. You need to conceptualize what that is before you ask for the money. It's very important that you give credit where credit is due. Ideas are intellectual property, and you have to be very careful, especially when you're working in teams, because it's like really whoever came up with the idea owns it, and is the person who should be PI and given credit for it, okay? Unless it was some kind of shared, you know, aha moment that you guys can agree it was 50-50. But you need to give credit where it's due always. And negotiate your roles before you start writing. You have got to know who's going to be in charge of what, because it gets really messy if there's no clear leader and no clear designation of roles. You know, you start small. This is how you do it. If you're just a starting junior faculty or starting doc student, you begin small. Any money is more money than you had before, right? You can begin with private foundations first and get those small grants that you can build upon. You could even start with your professional organization. I know AERA has grants, and everybody in this room, you're here, you're in education, you qualify. Okay, so AERA has small grants that you can begin with, and then move toward the government funds, the larger funds later. They want to see a progression through successful small projects before they can give you the big one. And you need to show that you have the infrastructure and you have what it takes to get the work done. There's an emerging trend now in organizations to encourage multidisciplinary collaboration, crossing over to disciplines that have something that's synergistic with what you have or complementary. It's very important. And you need to kind of think outside the box when it comes to that. I've seen a lot of collaboration between technology and disability education or rehabilitation. I've seen people in engineering working with qualitative methodology. People in special ed might work with folks across the street in medicine or pediatrics. That happens all the time. So that will enhance your chances of getting funded because you have different disciplines collaborating and contributing. It's very, very, very important that you network. So when you go to professional conferences, you know, pull together with people who are very successful, who you want to emulate, you want to know their work, you want to maybe even you have an idea about a research project and you would like to collaborate with them. Look around at the cohort of people that you are going to move through the doc studies with, because those are going to be the people you're going to be collaborating with in the future. And it's very important that you have good relationships with them. Are you ready? This is very important, and I've talked about this throughout. Bess has mentioned it. You need to make sure that you read the request for proposals from beginning to end. Some of them are 85 pages long, and that just makes you want to throw up, and you don't want to go through that many pages. But let me tell you, it's worth it. Do it up front, and do it well. What's the deadline? What's the period for the grant? Do you have enough time to prepare it? 6 months minimum. Some people can pull it off in 3 because they have years and years of experience and a bunch of literature, okay? But if you're beginning, you haven't done that. Do you have enough information to get this done? Who needs to approve the final proposal? Who's the boss of you? Who's the person that has to grant permission for you to say that you're going to spend 0.5 or 0.25 of your time doing this stuff? Okay? You need to learn the hierarchy and learn to figure that out. What are the cost-benefit analysis? You know, is it worth it to me to actually spend time doing this stuff? Am I going to get products out of it? Or are you going to be writing a grant that might or might not yield results that are publishable? Okay, you need to be very strategic about what you choose to focus on. Can you stay on mission if you get the award, or are you scattered? Are you going to be all over the place? Can you stay on focus? Can you follow through with what you're saying you're going to do? How will this change the way that you operate? How will getting a grant change how you do your day-to-day work life? Your day-to-day private life, and believe you me, it will. It will filter into your private life. Can you deliver the expected results, and what are the benefits if you don't get funded? What can you draw from the experience if you don't get funded that you can use as a learning for the next time? Okay, these are the pieces of almost every single grant that I've ever seen. All right, and these are the things you need to attend to. The actual grantor will tell you what they're looking for. Make sure you understand what those pieces are. These are generic things that I've seen in almost every single one proposal, whether it's private, public, or what have you. Need an impact, project design or services, timeline of activities, key personnel, partners that you're collaborating with. It could be a subcontract. What is the management plan? Who's going to be in charge of making sure all of this works? What are the evaluation methods? If you're doing program design and delivery, how are you going to evaluate the efficacy of the program? What's your budget? And what's in the appendix? Where are the letters of support, the tables, charts, curriculum vitae or bio sketches, references? All of that needs to be included in there. Okay, so you need to make sure that all of these pieces are there. You organize the process. There's a certain way of doing that. You want to take over?
We're at about 1 o'clock, so
okay.
We can go quickly through go through quickly the 2 next slides, and then we'll go.
Okay, very quickly. The RFP is read, the evaluation criteria is read, you know what it is they're going to be emphasizing and looking at. Make a checklist of the things that you need to do, the activity list, okay, especially if you're the PI. The link in there will tell you an Excel spreadsheet of how to develop a timeline for all the activities. What kind of involvement will it take to complete the project? How much will it cost you? Decide whether or not to keep going. Maybe you're 2 weeks into it and you realize you can't do it. So just give it up and go focus on something else. Request support letters early. Give people time. You can't say I need a letter by tomorrow at 2, okay? Finish the narrative and the other components. Make sure you plan way ahead. Submit to a mentor or meet with Linda Isaacs in the Division for Sponsored Research that is here at UF. Edit like you do with papers, like you do with manuscripts. You do it with proposals. You want to make sure you edit that and follow the guidelines about maximum number of pages. And you submit the proposal through DSR or to the sponsor depending on the requirements. If you're not sure, you come see us in the Office of Educational Research. We'll tell you how it goes. Okay? You have to make the job easier for the reviewers. They are tired. They want it. They want to go through this and see clearly what you're trying to say. Every reviewer is a generalist. They're intelligent people that don't necessarily know about your topic. So don't assume and use big words that they're going to look at and go like, what does that mean? I have no idea. Okay? Your number one job is to convince them that your idea is worthwhile. paint a big picture first and then highlight the details of what's important. Be friendly with your formatting. Be very, very succinct and clear. Follow the sections as required. Don't get creative about organizing your paper in a different way. Use different fonts to highlight important points. You can use italics, you can use bold. There are ways of bringing the attention up in particular key areas. State your hypotheses or goals clearly. Link anticipated results to your hypotheses or how you will assess your goals. And make sure you've addressed every single criterion listed by the agency as important. You have to make sure it links back to what they say matters. Okay, Fulbrights.
So
Bess.
what we have here are some links to some trainings that are on the library's website, which is the website that I created and also populate with information about grant seeking. It's actually the place on campus that has all the resources for grantsmanship, and I'll show you where that is. So this link here is a workshop that you can watch that will give you information about how to get funding for Fulbright funds for international travel. When we've done 2 workshops, or sponsored 2 of those workshops presented by the honors program, and we've doubled the number of successful proposals that have been submitted to the Fulbright program from UF in 1 year. So last year I think there were 10. This year there were 20. So these videos are very, very important to watch. Let's go to the next one. So we have an exercise that we'd like you to do with us. We have examples of a successful Fulbright proposal. And I think that we're going to give you a few minutes, 10 minutes actually, which is about the time that a reviewer uses to review a proposal. Did everybody get a copy of?
I think so, except for our videographer.
Of the Fulbright. So what we'd like you to do is look at these criteria. Now, there actually aren't specified criteria for Fulbright. So I asked John Denny, who's the director of the program here on campus, and he's the assistant director of the honors program, to invent some criteria which we could give you. So for this exercise. But these are likely the criteria that are used to evaluate the Fulbright proposals.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We'd like you to review this in 10 minutes and then underline while you're reading which points in this document validate or give you evidence that demonstrates these criteria. Like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is good. Okay? So we'd like you to do that now. And we're going to do it too. I'm going to do it too.
Go ahead.